The throne in the mist. A heavy mist covered the strange planet. The air was cold and quiet. Nothing moved. No birds. No wind. No sound. Only a thick white fog rolled slowly across the rocky land. High above, a human ship fell from the sky like a dying star. It crashed into a mountain, fire bursting from its side. Metal screamed as the ship broke apart and slid down into a deep forest. Inside the broken ship, one man survived. His name was Darren Cross, a human explorer, lost, wounded, cold. He crawled out of the wreck, his arm bleeding and his clothes burned. His ship was gone. No help would come. He looked around the forest, confused and dizzy. But then, he heard it. A whisper, a voice, soft and distant. It called him by name. Darren. He froze. Who's there? But there was no answer. Only the wind. Only silence. Still, something strange pulled him forward, like an invisible rope around his chest. He walked. Through the trees, through fog, over broken stones. Hours passed. Time felt strange here. He didn't know why he kept walking, but he couldn't stop. Then he saw it. A giant old palace stood deep in the woods. Its black towers reached into the clouds. The stone was cracked, but still powerful. Vines covered the walls. Statues of strange alien creatures lined the entrance, their faces full of pain. Darren stepped inside. Dust covered everything. Cobwebs. Darkness. The halls were long and empty. But the voice came again. Darren, help me. He followed it, room after room, until finally he found a massive door made of silver and bone. Words were carved above it in an alien language, but one part was written in human English. Do not tivo uchich here. His heart pounded. He pushed the door open. Inside was a large round room, a throne room. And on the throne sat a girl. She looked young, maybe 20. Her skin was a light purple, her hair silver and long, like it had never been cut. Her hands were chained to the arms of the throne. Her ankles too. Her head rested against the back of the seat. Her eyes were open, but did not move. Darren stepped closer. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. She was like a statue. A sign was placed beside her throne. It read, "She was cursed for loving a human. Touch her, and you will share her fate." Darren stared at the message. His hands shook. He whispered, "What happened to you?" The air around her felt heavy, full of old power. Still, something deep inside Darren screamed to help her. He couldn't leave her like this. She looked so sad. He reached out. His fingers touched hers. In that second, everything changed. The chains rattled. The room shook. A strong wind rushed in from nowhere. The throne glowed blue. Darren fell back, covering his face. Light burst from her skin. Her eyes blinked. She gasped. She was breathing. Slowly, her head turned toward him. Her lips moved. Her voice was soft, but full of pain. "You broke it." Darren stepped back. "What?" The girl sat forward, the chains falling off her as if they were nothing. She touched her face, her hair. Her eyes filled with tears. "I was asleep, for so long." He stared in shock. Who are you?" She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped. Her face became scared. "No, they'll come now. They'll know I'm free." Suddenly, the ground shook again. Darren turned around. The door behind him slammed shut on its own. Cracks spread across the floor. The statues outside screamed. Yes, screamed. And their stone faces began to twist. "What's happening?" Darren shouted. The girl stood up slowly, her legs weak. "You need to run. Now." I was not the only one trapped here. A deep growl echoed from the walls. The lights in the ceiling burst one by one. Darren grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her forward. "I'm not leaving you here." She looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. Then we run together." They pushed the door open. Darkness followed behind them like smoke. As they ran through the halls, the palace roared like a beast. Behind them, shadows with sharp teeth chased, crawling on the walls. But Darren didn't look back. He had no idea who she was. He didn't know what kind of spell he had broken. But deep in his heart, he knew one thing. This was just the beginning. She remembers nothing, but cries in her sleep. The forest outside the cursed palace was silent again, except for the heavy footsteps of the human man and the alien girl as they ran. Darren's breath came fast. His boots hit wet mud. Tree branches scratched his face, but he didn't stop. He held her hand tightly. The girl was barefoot, weak, and trembling, but she didn't complain. Her name, she didn't know it. Her past was a blank space in her mind, but she knew one thing clearly. She had been asleep for centuries, and something dark still wanted her. They stopped near a broken wall covered in moss. Darren helped her sit down on a flat stone. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded, but her eyes stayed on the palace far behind them. Black smoke floated above it. The walls had cracked. A strange red light blinked from within. "They will come," she said softly. "They will always come." Darren looked around. The trees were tall, twisted, and dark. He checked his small scanner. No signal. No help. He looked at the girl again. "What's your name?" She stared at him, confused. Her lips opened slowly. "I don't know." He sighed and gave her his jacket. "You can wear this." She looked at it as if she'd never seen clothes before. She gently took it and wrapped it around herself. "You saved me," she whispered. "I don't even know what I did," Darren replied. "I just touched your hand." She touched her palm where he had grabbed her. That touch, it broke the spell. I could feel it snap inside me, like glass shattering in my mind. He looked curious. Why was the curse made in the first place? She closed her eyes. "I think I was punished, but I don't remember it for what. Only small pieces. Screaming. Fire. A man's voice, crying." Darren looked at her closely. "A man?" "Yes." Her voice shook. "He said he would come back for me. But I waited for so long. He never did." She touched her face, then the chains around her wrists. Though they were gone now, she still rubbed the skin like she could feel their weight. That night, they found shelter inside a hollow tree, one so large it could hide them both. Darren lit a small fire using scraps from his gear. The girl sat beside him, staring into the flames. Her fingers moved like she was drawing shapes in the air, strange glowing lines that faded quickly. "Magic?" Darren asked. She nodded slowly. "It's broken inside me. I can feel it, but I don't know how to use it anymore. My mind is like smoke." She looked up at the stars above. "Were those always there?" she whispered. "What?" "The stars. They feel new. Different." Darren watched her closely. She wasn't like the other aliens he had met. She didn't move with pride or power. She was quiet, soft, almost fragile. Suddenly, her body tensed. Her eyes closed tight. Her hands clenched. Then she began to shake. "Hey, what's wrong?" Darren asked. She didn't answer. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She began to cry in her sleep. She dreamed. A throne room again, but this time full of light. Guards in silver armor stood tall. A woman, her mother, was shouting. A group of old aliens stood in a circle, holding staffs. The girl, her younger self, stood in the center. One of the old aliens pointed at her and said, "You loved a human. You brought death to our kind. Your heart is your crime." She screamed back, "No, I only wanted peace." But they didn't listen. Chains flew through the air like snakes and wrapped around her. The last thing she saw was the face of a human soldier, his eyes full of guilt. Then everything turned black. She woke up screaming. Darren grabbed her shoulders. "It's okay. You're safe now." She opened her eyes wide. "No. I saw it. They cursed me because I loved someone. A human." Darren pulled back slightly. "You loved a human before?" She nodded, her lips shaking. "I think he betrayed me." Darren was quiet for a moment. She looked up. "Do you believe in curses, Darren?" He nodded. "Now I do." She smiled sadly. "My name, it's still gone. I wish I knew it. I don't even remember what my people called me." Darren smiled back. "Then I'll give you a name. Until we find the real one." She blinked. "A name." He looked around the forest. You came from the throne, right? And you broke a curse. You need something strong. Something that means hope." He paused. Then said, "How about Elira?" Her lips parted. "Elira," she repeated softly. "I like that." Far away, something was watching. In the heart of the broken palace, deep in its lowest chamber, the darkness shifted. A giant eye opened in the shadows. A growl echoed across the land. "She is awake, and the human is with her." 4 black beasts stepped into the light, tall, with sharp arms, no faces, only holes for mouths. "Bring her back," the voice said, "or burn the forest to ash." Back in the forest, Elira stood beside Darren as they moved deeper into the wild. She looked stronger now, her steps firmer, but her eyes still held sadness. "Do you think the others, your people, are still alive?" Darren asked. "I don't know," she said, "but if they are, they may not want me back." "Why?" "Because I broke the law. I followed my heart." Darren nodded. "Then maybe it's time someone showed them humans aren't so bad." She smiled at him for the first time, and in that quiet moment, something strange happened. A flower bloomed near her foot, blue, glowing, and warm. She gasped. "That's from my world. It only blooms with true emotion." Darren raised an eyebrow. "So, we're connected now." Elira looked away, shy. Maybe. But in the shadows of the trees, something was coming for them. And the cursed story of Elira had only just begun. The truth buried beneath her chains. The forest grew darker as Darren and Elira walked deeper into the unknown. The air felt colder now. The trees twisted like they were alive. Strange whispers followed them, voices only Elira could hear. She held Darren's arm tightly. Something was waking. Something old. They found the temple. Hidden behind tall rocks and overgrown vines, they found an abandoned alien temple, half broken, covered in moss. Its doors were made of blue stone, glowing slightly as Elira stepped close. "They know me," she whispered. Darren looked around. "Do you think it's safe?" "I don't know," she said softly, "but I feel something here, something that remembers me." They entered the temple. Inside, candles lit on their own. The air smelled of dust, flowers, and forgotten time. Symbols were carved into the walls, strange writing, half faded, but glowing when Elira passed by. Then, from the shadows, someone stepped forward. The monk. He was old. His robe touched the ground. His skin was silver and cracked like stone. His eyes were blind, but still glowing. The alien monk stopped in front of Elira and slowly fell to his knees. "My queen," he whispered, his voice shaking. Darren froze. "Wait, queen?" Elira looked just as shocked. "I'm not a queen," she said. "I don't even know my name." The monk smiled through tears. "Yes, they stole it from you. They buried it. But I remember. I served your family long ago, before the betrayal, before the curse." She stepped closer. Tell me the truth. The lost past." The monk lit a crystal fire in the center of the room. It showed floating images, memories carved in light. "You were once Vilari, daughter of the High King of Illimera," the monk said. "You were born with the gift of foresight. You could see danger before it happened, but your visions warned of something your people feared. Darren leaned in. What did she see? A human, the monk replied. A human man, just like you. In her visions, he was important, connected to the future of our world. Alyra, closed her eyes. I remember. Pieces. You loved that human, the monk continued. But the elders saw danger in him. They said he would bring ruin. So they chose to destroy you, to stop the vision from becoming real. Darren whispered. They cursed her for loving someone who hadn't even done anything yet. The monk nodded. They feared change. They feared love. They feared you. The vision of betrayal. The crystal fire glowed again, this time showing a younger Velari, standing with a human soldier. They kissed, laughed, planned to escape together. Then, he vanished, and the council came for her. You were betrayed, the monk said. They made the soldier believe you had lied. They made you believe he had left. Alyra's voice cracked. They made me hate him. But it wasn't his fault, the monk said. You were both pawns. The council wanted you broken, forgotten. Tears filled her eyes. Darren stood by her side. That's why they chained her to the throne. Yes, said the monk. They said only the touch of a pure-hearted human could break her prison. They thought it was impossible. He looked at Darren. Until you came. The warning. Suddenly, the monk gasped and grabbed his chest. His body shook. His eyes rolled back. The curse, it followed you. They're here. The walls of the temple trembled. Wind howled through the cracks. The crystal fire exploded. Darren pulled Alyra close. What's happening? The monk's voice became deeper, possessed. The shadows have risen. The dark ones. The council's old servants. They want her back. They want the curse restored. Then he fell, lifeless. Alyra dropped to her knees beside him. No, you can't leave me. I need to know more. But the monk didn't move again. The escape. The temple began to collapse. Stone beams cracked. Dust poured from the ceiling. Something roared from deep underground. Alyra's eyes glowed. She raised her hands, and a blue shield formed around them. She looked surprised at her own power. I remember this, she said. It's part of me. I can protect us. Darren held her hand. Let's get out of here. They ran through falling rocks and sliding tiles. The floor cracked behind them. A giant black hand burst through the wall, claws long and dripping with smoke. But they escaped, just in time. The temple sank into the ground, swallowed by its own curse. A new path. That night, they built a small fire near the river. Alyra sat quietly, holding a broken piece of the monk's necklace. Darren cooked strange alien roots he found nearby. I'm sorry, he said. For what? That they did this to you. For loving someone like me. She looked at him. It wasn't your fault. And maybe that love wasn't a mistake. He smiled. Are you saying you believe in fate? She touched the flower that bloomed again near her feet. I don't know, she said, but I believe something brought you to me. She stood and faced him. And if you broke the spell, then maybe you're part of the prophecy too. Darren stood up. Then what do we do now? She took a deep breath. We go back. He blinked. Back to the throne. Yes, she said. To finish this, to find the truth, to stop the shadows before they reach the cities. Darren looked at her, this mysterious girl who had once been a queen, a prisoner, and now, a flame against the darkness. And he nodded. Then I'll walk with you, he said, all the way. In the distance, the shadows watched from the trees. Their leader, a tall, thin beast with no face, growled low. She remembers. The others hissed. She walks with the human. The leader stepped forward, claws ready. Then we will rip the memory from her bones. The creatures who chained her return. The morning light peeked through the trees. Fog still hung low, but the world felt calmer, for now. Elira and Darren walked quietly beside the river. The water sparkled. Birds chirped softly, like the planet was waking from a long dream. But Elira couldn't stop thinking about the temple, about the monk's final words. The shadows have risen. She held the broken piece of his necklace tightly in her hand. It pulsed with a small blue light, almost like it was still alive. A moment of peace before the storm. They stopped near a small clearing. Darren found some berries growing on a bush and picked them carefully. Elira sat by a flat rock, dipping her fingers into the river. "Are you feeling better?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "My power is still confused, but something inside me is waking." She looked up. "I see flashes now. Visions. Of the future. Yes. Of death. Of fire. Of you, bleeding." Darren sat beside her. "Well, that's comforting." She smiled a little, but her eyes were still heavy with fear. "Darren, I think they're close." "Who?" "The ones who chained me." The return of the shadows. Suddenly, the wind stopped. The birds flew away all at once. The forest grew silent. Darren stood up quickly. "Elira." She rose to her feet too, her hair rising with static energy. Her eyes glowed faintly. From the trees, they came. Tall creatures, black as night. Their skin was like wet stone. They had no eyes, only hollow holes where faces should be. Their arms were long and sharp, dragging behind them. There were 4 of them. They walked like they were floating. Elira's voice shook. "They are called the Hollow Guard. They served the council. They were the ones who locked me away." One of them let out a horrible scream, like metal bending and children crying at once. Darren raised his weapon. "What do they want?" Elira stepped forward. "They want me back on the throne." The fight begins. One of the Hollow Guard lunged forward. Darren fired his plasma gun, but the creature dodged unnaturally fast. It slammed into him, sending him flying into a tree. He coughed, bleeding. "Darren." Elira screamed. Another creature ran toward her. She threw up her hand, and a blast of blue energy knocked it back. The third one circled her, whispering in an alien tongue. "You belong to us. Your soul is cursed." Elira's hands glowed brighter. Not anymore. She let out a cry, and light shot from her chest, burning through 2 of the creatures. They shrieked and vanished like smoke. Darren is hurt, but one of them hadn't left. It was behind Darren now, its sharp fingers rising, ready to pierce him. Elira turned and screamed. She ran forward, faster than she thought possible. Her hands burst with fire. She threw herself between Darren and the creature. The claw cut her arm, but her magic exploded again, throwing the beast far back into the forest. Then silence. Only their heavy breathing remained. Darren held her. "You saved me again." "You have done the same," she whispered, pressing her hand to her bleeding arm. He tore a piece of his shirt and wrapped it around her wound. "Elira, we can't keep running. We need help." She nodded. "Then we go to the city. The hidden alien city." They traveled through the night and into the next morning. Finally, high on a hill, they saw it, a hidden city carved into stone cliffs, glowing with soft green lights. Floating bridges, spiral towers, and giant statues of ancient queens stood proudly at its entrance. Elira stopped walking. Her hands shook. Her face turned pale. This was my home." Darren looked at her. "Do you think they'll let us in?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't even know if they'll remember me or want me back." The gates open. At the city gates, 2 armored alien guards pointed weapons at them. "Halt. Identify yourself." Darren raised his hands. "We're not enemies. She's one of you." The guards looked at Elira. Their eyes widened. One of them whispered, Impossible. The other dropped his weapon. It's her. A moment later, a large floating platform arrived, carrying an older alien woman with royal robes and silver eyes. She stepped down. "Elira," she said in disbelief. Elira took a slow step forward. "You know me. I was your handmaiden, long ago. I buried your name in my heart." The woman fell to her knees. "You've returned, the true heir of the Elamari throne." Inside the city, they were taken to a healing chamber. The Lyra's wounds were treated with glowing stones and soft music. Darren watched from the side, arms crossed. He couldn't help but feel out of place. The alien stared at him with suspicion. Whispers followed him. "That's the human. He's the reason she woke. What if he's like the first one?" Elira noticed. She stood up from the healing bed and walked to him. "This man saved me, protected me, bled for me. If anyone here speaks against him, they speak against me." The room went silent. No one argued. The council returns. But peace didn't last long. A tall alien with a cold face entered the hall, followed by 5 others in dark robes. "The council," Elira whispered. "The same kind of leaders who had cursed her." One of them spoke. "Velari, you should not be alive." Another added, "And yet you are, awakened by a human." Elira stepped forward. "You feared the vision. You feared love. You feared your own future. We did what we had to." She stared them down. "Then I will do what I must." The tallest council member raised a finger. "The Hollow Guard will come again. You cannot escape fate." Darren stepped forward, standing beside Elira. "Then we'll change fate." Final scene. A fire in the sky. That night, the city went quiet. Elira stood on the highest balcony, looking at the stars. Darren joined her, silent for a while. Finally, he said, "Do you think the old you would have liked the person you are now?" She smiled. "I think. The old me was scared. The new me is still scared. But now, I'm not alone." He took her hand. Then, a bright flash lit up the sky. Flaming shapes fell from orbit, dark ships landing in the far valley. The shadows had returned, and they were not alone. The journey back to the throne. The sky burned red as dark ships rained down into the valley. Sirens rang through the alien city. Lights blinked in towers. Alien soldiers rushed to their stations, loading weapons and guarding gates. But Elira and Darren stood still, high above the panic, looking down from the balcony. "They've come for me," Elira said softly. "They know I remember everything now." Darren turned toward her. "Then let's not run anymore. Let's face them." Elira looked at him. For a moment, fear filled her eyes. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she said. "It's time to go back." The final journey begins. With the city behind them, Elira and Darren prepared for their return to the cursed palace. But this time, they weren't alone. 3 trusted warriors from the city, an elite tracker, a healer, and a silent blade master, joined them. Elira had chosen them personally, but the path was not as it once was. The cursed forest had changed. The trees were no longer trees. They were twisted statues, frozen in screams. The ground whispered with every step. Time itself felt broken. Daylight flickered like candlelight. Still, they walked forward. The living maze. After 3 days of walking, they reached a wall of black vines. It pulsed like a beating heart. "This wasn't here before," Darren said. Elira stepped closer. "It's alive. It's watching us." Suddenly, the vines opened, revealing the twisting stone path. No sky above, only fog. They entered. Inside the path, visions began. One by one, each of them saw their worst fears. Darren's vision. He walked alone in a foggy hall. Elira stood in front of him, cold, angry. "You were never meant for me," she said. "You're just a mistake. You woke me, but you don't belong in my world." Darren reached for her, but she vanished. Flames rose around him. He saw himself failing to save her, dying alone, forgotten. But he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and said, "She chose me. She believes in me. And I believe in her." The flames vanished. He stepped forward, stronger. Elira's vision. She stood in a throne room again. But this time, she wore a black crown. The people around her bowed in fear, not love. A voice echoed, "You broke the curse, but now you carry it. You are Queen of Ashes." She saw Darren lying at her feet, lifeless. Tears rolled down her face. "I don't want this," she cried. "I never wanted power. I only wanted freedom." Suddenly, her younger self appeared in front of her. "Then choose love, not fear." The crown cracked, and the vision ended. The maze breaks. When they reunited, Darren and Elira said nothing at first. But when their eyes met, they both knew. They had seen something, and passed a test. The warriors looked shaken too. One had age. One had cried. The other refused to speak. They moved forward. Finally, the maze ended, and the cursed palace stood ahead. But it was no longer broken. It had grown. Taller, darker, alive with evil. And on the throne sat a new figure. The new Queen of Shadows. She looked like Elira, but not. Her skin was black as night. Her eyes burned red. Her fingers long, clawed, dripping with shadow. It was Elira's curse, made into a living form. "She is the part of me I left behind," Elira said quietly. The hate, the pain, the betrayal. She became real. The cursed version of Elira, Dark Elira, smiled cruelly. "You broke free," she said, "but freedom is a lie, a deadly offer." Dark Elira stood and raised a hand. The ground cracked. From the shadows, the hollow guard rose again, more of them this time. 10, 20, maybe more. "You want peace," she hissed. "Then sit on the throne again. Chain yourself once more, and I will spare your human." Elira stepped back. Darren looked at her, afraid she might actually agree. But she didn't. "No," Elira said. "You are not my future. You are my past. And I am not a prisoner anymore." Dark Elira's eyes narrowed. "Then you both die." The battle at the throne. A war broke out. The three alien warriors fought like legends, blades flashing, fire flying. Darren used his plasma rifle, protecting Elira from every angle. But the hollow guard were endless. Elira stood in front of the throne, hands glowing, eyes bright. She was shaking. Her magic flickered. She didn't want to sit. She wanted to destroy the curse once and for all. But she couldn't figure out how. Suddenly, Darren was hit. A sharp blade cut across his back. He fell. "Elira!" She screamed. Her power exploded. Waves of light knocked the hollow guard back. The final choice. Dark Elira stepped forward, untouched. "You're still weak," she said. "You need me." The Lyra walked to the throne. Her hands touched it. Visions flashed in her mind. She saw herself as queen, cold and powerful. She saw herself as a wanderer, free but alone. She saw herself dead, her people saved. She saw herself with Darren, in a small home, smiling. The throne whispered, "Only one path can be real." Tears filled her eyes. Then she made her choice. She turned to Darren. "I won't sit." She took his hand and kissed him. The curse breaks. The throne cracked. Dark Elira screamed, her body melting into smoke. The hollow guard froze, then shattered into dust. The palace began to collapse. Darren stood, his wounds fading. Light covered him. Elira glowed brighter than the sun. She had made the final choice. Not power, not revenge, not fear, but love. Aftermath. The warriors led them out as the palace crumbled behind them. The cursed land turned green again. Flowers bloomed. Birds returned. The air felt alive. In the sky, clouds parted. Stars twinkled. And Elira, Velari, was finally free. Last scene. Back at the city, the people gathered. Elira stood before them. I was once your princess. Then I became your prisoner. Now, I stand before you not as royalty, but as one of you. She looked at Darren beside her. This human broke my chains, not with power, but with belief. The crowd bowed. And for the first time in centuries, Elira smiled with peace. Her name, her power, her people. The sun rose over the once cursed land. Where black vines once grew, now there were green fields. The throne was gone, the shadows defeated, and the air was fresh like new life had just begun. But for Elira, or Velari, her true name, this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The return to the city. Velari and Darren walked side by side, followed by the 3 surviving warriors. The journey back to the alien city was quiet. Everyone was tired, but no one complained. They had faced darkness, and won. As the gates of the city opened for them again, the people fell silent. Then, one by one, they knelt. The old, the young, the warriors, the workers, all bowed before the girl who had once been chained to the cursed throne. But Velari raised her hand. No more chains, she said. No more thrones. I am not your queen. I am your sister. Her voice was soft, but powerful. Darren looked at her with quiet pride. Inside the grand hall, the High Council was waiting. The same 5 elders who once ruled the planet now sat behind crystal desks. Their faces were older, colder, and still full of fear. The tallest one stood. You destroyed the throne, he said. You have broken sacred law. Velari stepped forward. You chained me for loving a human. You erased my name. And you called it justice. Another council member hissed. You don't understand what you risked. The shadows were part of an ancient protection. They were your slaves, she snapped. You used dark magic to silence truth. You feared what I saw in my visions, a better future with humans, and Elamari standing side by side. She turned to the crowd. You feared him. She pointed at Darren. Darren speaks. Darren took a step forward. He had stayed silent long enough. I didn't come here to rule anyone, he said. I didn't come to steal, to fight, or to conquer. I came because I crash-landed. And then I met her. He looked at Velari, and she changed my life. He looked at the council again. I saw her cry in her sleep. I saw her bleed to protect others. I saw her choose love instead of revenge. He paused. And if that's something your laws can't accept, then maybe your laws are the problem. A quiet gasp spread across the crowd. Velari smiled softly. The people speak. A voice came from the back. An old alien woman stood up. My daughter was punished for speaking of peace with other races. A young man added, my brother died in the mines, working to build that cursed throne. Then another. Then another. Until dozens of voices filled the hall. A wave of truth, hidden for so long, now finally rising. The people didn't want fear anymore. They wanted freedom. They wanted Velari. But she wasn't done yet. The mirror of truth. Velari stepped forward and summoned a glowing circle in the air. It shimmered like water. This is a memory mirror, she said, my final vision before I was chained. Inside the mirror, they all saw a younger Velari holding hands with a human soldier. Not Darren, but someone else. A past love. They saw her trying to stop a war. They saw the council twisting her words. They saw her scream as chains wrapped around her. And they saw the truth. The throne had been cursed not by enemies, but by the very council standing before them. One council member tried to run. The crowd stopped him. The council falls. By sunset, the 5 elders were no longer in power. They were stripped of their titles and sent into exile, not by violence, but by the voice of the people. Valeri had not raised a sword, but she had cut through the lies with truth. A new leadership. In a gathering of thousands, Valeri stood on a high platform. "I will not be your queen," she said, "but I will be your guide." Cheers filled the air. Then she pointed to Darren. This human, Darren Cross, came here by accident, but he stayed by choice. He fought not for gold or fame or power, but for love and for what was right. She turned to him. "If the people agree, I would ask him to lead beside me." Darren's eyes widened. "What? Me?" Valeri smiled, not as king, but as a partner, as proof that humans and Elamari can walk forward together. Darren's answer. Darren stepped to the front. He took the microphone-like orb, looked at the huge alien crowd, and said, "I'm just a man from a small planet. I've made mistakes. I didn't come here to be anything important." He looked at Valeri. "But when I saw her chained, something inside me changed. I realized that freedom isn't just a word. It's a choice, a fight, a promise." He turned to the crowd. "If you'll have me, I'll walk this road with you, one step at a time." Thunderous applause shook the cliffs. The rebirth ceremony. 3 nights later, a great celebration was held. Lanterns floated in the sky. The people wore blue and gold, the colors of truth and rebirth. Valeri stood in the center of the circle. She now wore a new robe, not royal, but woven by the people. Darren stood beside her. Together, they placed a new stone in the center of the city. It read, "We broke the throne, not to rule, but to rise." Together, fireworks lit the sky. Music filled the air. And the curse that once ruled this world was truly gone. Final scene. Late that night, Valeri and Darren walked alone under the stars. They sat by the edge of a cliff, legs hanging over the side. She leaned on his shoulder. "You know," she whispered, "I once had a vision of a man holding my hand. I thought it was someone else. But it was you." Darren smiled. "I once thought aliens were scary monsters." She laughed. "We are." They sat in silence. Then Valeri added, "What do you think happens next?" He looked at the stars. "Whatever we want." The final touch that changed everything. The stars above Elamara burned bright. The cursed palace was gone. The throne was dust. The people were free. And in the heart of the capital city stood a girl who was once forgotten by time, and the human man who broke her chains. But even peace has shadows, and every story needs its final chapter. The whisper in the wind. It began with a whisper, soft, almost like a dream. Valeri stood on the palace balcony alone. The wind moved her silver hair. Her eyes looked out toward the dark mountains. She could feel something unfinished. Darren joined her a moment later. "You feel it too?" She nodded. "Yes." A quiet voice. "It's not from the throne. It's from deeper." Darren raised an eyebrow. "Deeper." She closed her eyes. "Below the palace, under the mountain. I think the throne was never the source. It was just the surface." Darren took her hand. "Then let's finish this. One last journey." The descent beneath the mountain. They left before dawn, taking only one warrior with them, Laren, the silent blade master. Through hidden tunnels behind the old palace ruins, they moved downward. Step after step, the stone beneath their feet grew colder. The light dimmed. Hours passed. Then they reached it. A massive chamber, a forgotten hall built into the mountain itself. At its center sat something not of this world. A black crystal orb floating in the air, pulsing like a heart. Around it were thousands of stone carvings, names, faces, voices trapped in time. Valeri stepped forward. "This is it," she whispered, "the source of the chain. The truth of the curse." As Valeri reached out to the orb, it pulsed brighter. Then her body froze. Her mind was pulled inside. She stood in a dream, a white space with no ground, no sky, only whispers. There, a figure appeared. It looked like her, but ancient, wise. Her hair was white as snow. Her eyes were golden. "You have come," the figure said. "You are the last." "Last of what?" Valerie asked. "Last of the ones who loved freely, without fear, without borders." The figure raised her hand. "You were never cursed because of your power, Valerie. You were cursed because of your heart." The memory of the first love. Valerie saw the first human she had loved, the soldier from her vision. He was brave, kind, but also scared. The council had tricked him too. They told him Valerie was dangerous, that she would destroy his people. So he left her, and cried every night until the end of his life. She wept, seeing the truth. Then the ancient Valerie spoke again. "You waited for him, but he never returned. And yet, another came, a better one." She showed her Darren, risking his life, holding her when she was broken, protecting her when she had nothing. Valerie whispered, "He is my real fate, a final choice." The ancient voice said, "The crystal orb holds the last piece of the curse. You can destroy it now, but if you do, all memories of the throne, of your pain, your past, will disappear, even from your people." Valerie hesitated. "If I destroy it, will they forget what I survived?" "Yes," the voice said, "but they will also forget the fear, the darkness, the old laws." And Darren, the figure smiled. "He will still remember, because he touched your soul." Valerie looked down at her glowing hand. Then she raised it and shattered the orb. The return to light. A wave of light burst through the mountain. Outside, in the city, people paused as a warm wind passed through them. Elders forgot their bitterness. Children smiled brighter. The statues of the past faded away. And Valerie. She fell into Darren's arms, tears running down her cheeks. "It's gone," she said. "The curse is truly gone." He hugged her tightly. "Then come home." Back at the city, the people gathered again. But this time, they weren't bowing to a ruler. They were celebrating a friend. Valerie stood among them as one of them. No crown, no chains, just her, and Darren beside her. Together, they planted a tree where the throne once stood. Its leaves were gold. Its trunk was silver. A plaque beneath it read, "No throne, no chains, just freedom. A new life." Weeks passed. Valerie and Darren built a small house on a hill outside the city. Nothing fancy, just warm and quiet. They cooked together, read books from both human and elementary cultures, walked under the stars. Every evening, Valerie wrote in a journal, a story of what happened, so it would never be lost. And every night, Darren would ask her the same thing. "Do you regret anything?" And she would always say, "No, because you were my one true choice." Final scene. A touch that changed everything. One morning, Valerie stood by the window, holding something in her hand. A single chain link, the last physical piece of the throne, kept in a small box. Darren walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You still keeping that?" he asked. She nodded. "To remember how far we've come." She turned to him, and how one small touch changed everything. They kissed, and behind them, the tree outside the window bloomed with light, a sign of peace, a symbol of hope, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful thing in the universe is love.